Look, I think the pick sucks, but I'll tell you why I think it sucks, okay? Because he went to the wrong team, and he went to the wrong quarterback, and he went to the wrong system, okay? A guy like him goes to Green Bay, goes to Seattle, has Tom Brady. You're going to be able to get him the ball better. I mean, you don't rebuild a team from the outside in. Ask Matt Millen that. Okay, you build the football team from the inside out when you're struggling.
You're aboard Birds 365 here on the JAKIB Sports Media channel. We are Maga Mac, John McMullen, and Jody McDonald. A teammate of ours now. Happy to say, glad to have him on with his own show, the National Football Show. Dan Sileo joins us here on Birds 365. Dan the man, how are you this morning?
Dude, thank you guys, man. Thank you very much for welcoming me in. It's been really a pretty cool couple days here. Just being able just to do something that I really have a passion for, and that's football. And, you know, going all the way back, Jody, guys, I got to tell you, man, you know, just I got my uncle's jersey that he was inducted into the Giants Hall of Fame and then into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Andy Robustelli. So when I say, you know, that I was born a Giant guy, I hope I'm all right here, man, a little bit, being brought into an Eagle den.
Yeah, and now Jody's a Jets guy, so you're fine.
Right.
Yeah. Dude, then you are a glutton for punishment, Jody.
Yes, I am.
You're
50 plus years of it. Thank you very much for reminding me.
You know, one thing, by the way, you know, you Miami guys, big sales, you run deep. One thing I want to know, you get Dwayne Johnson to promo your show, the National Football Show. First of all, I got to get you to get The Rock to give us a little shout out. Number one. Nice. Yeah, that'd be nice. But number two, talk about that Miami culture. You guys, you had Jimmy Johnson on one of your first shows. That's got to be awesome to be a part of that history.
You know what? And guys, I think you probably know, and you probably bumped elbows with him. Jerome Brown and I started this thing back in 1985. And, you know, the one thing that we wanted to really do was after we won the championship in 83, we wanted to be able to have something where every generation gets an opportunity to be connected in some way. You know, the Canes the last 20 years haven't really been all that connected when it comes to winning, because back when we were there, I mean, I lost one game in 3 years at Miami, and that was just a common thing for over 14 years was that program. But the guys, like, I could talk to Reggie Wayne today like I talked to Michael Irvin back in the day, and that was just a culture that was set up. Nobody cared where you came from. Nobody cared your politics. Nobody cared about anything except when we were in that locker room, and it's really carried on. Like I tell you guys, I didn't know The Rock knew about me like that, and all of a sudden we just started reaching out, and it's like he played on my Canes teams with Jerome and Cortez and Russell and all them guys. And he's just been absolutely sensational. We've become really good friends. And you're right, Jody. Here's how this thing has really kind of blossomed in that, you know, Jimmy Johnson and Howard Schnellenberger, who just passed away. John, I got to tell you, man, those guys really set the table for all of this at the University of Miami. It's been awesome.
And you wouldn't know this, Dan, but one of the toughest things I've ever done. I've been doing a sports talk thing for 30 plus years. I happened to be on the air on the day in Philadelphia when we found out that Jerome had passed in the tragic car accident, and I was an hour into a 5-hour show by myself. And the outpouring that we got from fans on the phones, I didn't want to be there. I just wanted to get up and leave, but I had a job to do, and I wanted to be there to give Eagle fans a chance to get it off their chest and talk about it. Remember what Jerome meant to the Eagles. It was one of the toughest shows I'd ever done, and that was a long time ago, and it's still to this day one of the toughest shows I've ever done.
I want to show you something here. Every year that I go to a golf tournament, you know, I go to the Jerome Brown Classic that's in Brooksville. And back in the day, you know, when we were first doing it, Reggie would show up. And I was with the Lions. And guys, I'll never forget this because Eric Andelsack, who was an offensive guard, was killed like a couple weeks earlier. And the Associated Press called me and they're like, "Hey, did you hear what happened?" I go, "Yeah, Andelsack died a couple of years ago. He was down in Thibodaux, Louisiana." "No, Jerome died." I went, Jerome who?" He goes, "Jerome Brown." I went, No. Jerome Superman. Jerome doesn't, that's not gonna, no. And he was my running mate. And man, I just love that guy so much. And there is not a month that goes by that, I don't think about him. And every year on his birthday, D Brown, his son, I check in with him because we made a pact years ago. I have a daughter now. If anything ever happened to one of us, we would always check on each other's kid. And so I check on D. He's doing really well. He went to UCF, played some baseball there. And yeah, it was one of the worst days of my life and then guys, we went to the funeral and I'll never forget, there's Reggie, there's Chris Carter, there's every single Philadelphia Eagle, Miami Hurricane. And I could not believe I've got Cortez Kennedy in between my wife and Russell Maryland. And there's not a guy that's not in tears. And we're just sitting there in tears. I'll never forget when we took him to rest, we all took our ties off and we threw it in his resting place. And we just threw all of our ties in and Reggie was just in tears. Now we lost him 2 years after that. But yeah, man, guys, that was really just, his impact. If I could tell anybody, and Jody, you know this as well as anybody, he's the Charles Barkley version of football. That was his personality. Yeah. If I could make a comparison, he was like Barkley of the football version.
Yeah, and he was such a great player, just like Charles. So it works out. But what is it about defensive tackles Miami back then? You mentioned Cortez, Russell. I mean, just such dominant at that particular Jerome at that particular position. It was an amazing run.
It really was. And then, Vince Wilfork and Jim Burt and all the people that we had there I was the 56th player taken, and I thought I was one of the bums of the group. I mean, you're like, these guys are like first round draft choices. You see, back then we converted guys. When Jerome got to Miami from Brooksville, he was a tight end. When I got to Miami, I was a linebacker. And so what Coach Johnson would do or Coach Schnellenberger would do was if we had great speed, all of us had to run under 5 flat. You see, you can't have 5'2" or you can't have 5'2" guys playing defensive line. That's not going to work at UM. Our ends all played 4-5. Everybody wanted speed. We were not going to be the biggest guys on the planet, but we were going to be the fastest guys on the planet. And that's why every time we took on teams like Nebraska or Notre Dame, we beat the piss out of them. I mean, Notre Dame, one year we beat them 58-7. We just ran around those guys. We gave them the worst loss still to this day. In school history, Coach Johnson's running reverses with a minute left in the game. And it was really just a great magical time. And you're right, man. I mean, Russell Maryland, 6'1". Warren Sapp, 6'1.5". Jerome, probably the tallest at 6'2.5". But we never looked at height. We just looked at speed. Now they go off these rivals things. And look, if you don't look a guy in the eyeball and you don't look at his game tape, that draft stuff, it's about as dumb as it gets with pro days and all this other stuff. If you don't look a dude in the eye and you don't look at his game tape and you call him a 20-footer, I only need to see 20 feet of tape to know a guy's good or bad.
All right, let me put it to you then. This year's draft class. You've done a great job of describing Miami players and Miami attitude. Was there a player or two that went in this past draft that you said, damn, he could have played with us? He could have been a Hurricane player back in the day when Hurricane players were Hurricane players. Was there one that you saw either via tape, watching games, or the chance to interview, or getting it from one of your fellow Hurricane guys who you said, this guy's going to be a stud in the pro because even though he may not have been a Miami guy, he plays like a Miami guy?
Yeah, this is going to kill me, man. I mean, this is like taboo. This is like Eagle fan, like talking about Giant guy. But that kid, Kyle Pitts from Florida, is a bitch. I'll tell you what, he is going to be an absolute mismatch on any NFL field. The only issue I would have with him is in the blocking game. I heard Dan Mullen, the head coach of the Gators, saying if you put him in a right situation, which meant this, don't line him up on J.J. Watt, the best defensive end, because he's going to get killed. Put him on the weak side a little bit, maybe out in the flank a little bit, maybe in the slot. You can put him out wide. The tight end position has become the most instrumental position, I think even more so than wideouts. I think wideouts are the most overrated position in the NFL. I think tight end, because the tight end beats the linebacker, and the tight end has become essential when it comes to moving the sticks. You don't have a great tight end. I mean, look at Kansas City, Gronk for many years. What you're seeing up in San Francisco, Zach Ertz for a bit. I mean, if you don't have that tight end, that guy's the dude that moves the sticks. I mean, I've told people this before. The reason that the Steelers were able to hang with the Patriots for so many years, they had the kid Ryan Shazier. He's kind of a cover 2 linebacker, and he's that old Tampa 2 guy. He could play the run, he could play the slot, he could play the seam. But that guy got hurt. He was the only guy of all them dudes they lost with AB and Le'Veon Bell. He was the biggest loss to the Steelers. Was not having him on that field, because they haven't had a guy to cover a tight end. You got a great tight end today, you're going to move the sticks. You're going to win ball games.
All right, Dan, you piqued my interest there because the Eagles took a wide receiver. I kind of agree with you in the fact that the position is a little bit overvalued. But we just been talking about physicality. Devonta Smith, 166-pound kid who plays like he's 200 pounds. Can he hold up even in the modern NFL? Now, obviously, things have changed. The game's evolved. It's over-legislated. You can't do a lot of things you could do back in your day. Does that help him?
It does, John. Here. Look, I think the pick sucks, but I'll tell you why I think it sucks, okay? Because he went to the wrong team, and he went to the wrong quarterback, and he went to the wrong system, okay? A guy like him goes to Green Bay, goes to Seattle, has Tom Brady. You're going to be able to get him the ball better. I mean, you don't rebuild a team from the outside in. Ask Matt Millen that, okay? You build the football team from the inside out when you're struggling. The Eagles needed to address the O-line. They did in the second round, but they did with a guy who's been in like the MASH unit. He's been injured all this time. That's fine. They at least addressed it. Anthony Munoz got hurt his entire career at Southern Cal. Then he went on to a 14-year NFL career. So I'm not going to hold that against them. They addressed the need in the second round. But, I mean, okay, so you're right, John, on one point here. The receivers back in the day, Jerry Rice is getting mugged at the line of scrimmage and all the way down the field. That's going to help him. You know, you can't have contact like you can in open space today versus what you could back then. But do you have the quarterback to get him the ball? You can have the greatest talent at wideout. But if you don't have the guy that can throw the ball and you don't have the O-line to protect the quarterback, that's why it's the most relied position in the NFL. Look at the teams that have won Super Bowls over the last couple of years. I get the Bucs. That's like an all-star team. But those Patriot teams, Julian Edelman was a quarterback in college. Wes Welker was a special teams dude in Miami with the Dolphins, right? Deion Branch and those dudes, they won all those Super Bowls with nobodies. I mean, you don't really look at Cam Newton's team a couple of years back. I mean, they didn't have anybody outside of the tight end. You really don't have to have these gigantic wideouts. Look at DeAndre Hopkins. What's he done in the postseason? Julio Jones got to a Super Bowl. Fair enough. I mean, he's a really good player. But back in the day, A.J. Smith and all these other big money guys, they haven't brought the teams anything, man. You know, you got to win in the offensive line. And when the Eagles won a couple of years ago, they beat the living piss out of the Patriots up front. That year, they had the best combination of O-line, D-line in the NFL. Fletcher Cox was kicking ass. That O-line was knocking people off the ball. And in the Super Bowl, they beat the hell out of the Patriots. What did the Patriots do? The following year, they beat the hell out of the Rams the same way that the Eagles beat them. So, I don't know, man. I think it's just not a fit because if you had a quarterback that was Aaron Rodgers, it's a great pick. But you have a guy in Jalen Hurts that, man, there's so many question marks on. And just to sit there and go, he's a great guy, that's got nothing. Aaron Rodgers looks like a toolbox as a teammate, right? It looks like a toolbox. However, would you not want that guy on your team? Of course you would.
Here's the reason why I disagree with you, Dan. He's going to be here for, I believe, a decade. I think he's that talented a player. I don't think we're going to have to worry about him getting hurt at 166 pounds. If Jalen Hurts isn't good enough, which you may be right about, John and I were just talking about it, it's a make it or break it year for Jalen Hurts, which is pretty damn quick. Well, he's going to be here for the next guy. And hopefully the next guy is the next Aaron Rodgers. And we don't know that just yet, but you have to think along those lines. You've got a guy who can be a year in, year out Pro Bowl type player at that position and make it easier for that next quarterback when you get him. That's why I got no problems with. I rate the players so highly. I'm such a Devonta Smith fan that he's going to help Jalen Hurts and or the next quarterback. Even if Hurts isn't good enough, well, then the next guy's going to benefit from Devonta. They have a good enough offensive line, getting older, injured, yes, but like you said, a lot of the same guys who won a Super Bowl for them in 2017, they did use their second-round pick. They're okay in the trenches. They needed a superstar playmaker outside, and they got one in Devonta Smith.
I'll say this to you, Jody. Fair enough, okay? This will all play out in seeing whether or not they can get him the ball. And to say that, the Dolphins have been searching for a quarterback. Outside of Peyton Manning in Denver, they've been searching for a quarterback since John Elway. To sit there and say that the Eagles are going to find that guy, they haven't had a consistent quarterback in that place since Randall Cunningham. And so the Eagles have been searching for a quarterback to be able to play consistently. Carson Wentz was okay until they got rid of the offensive coordinator. The wrong coach was fired or moved. I should say not fired, but moved. He got an opportunity to coach the Colts, okay, and he took it. Frank's a dear friend of mine. And, okay, he may be the guy, and he may help him, but finding that guy is like finding a needle in a haystack. I mean, those quarterbacks that come out and those quarterbacks that came out in the draft, this is what's going to happen this year. One guy's going to be great. The rest of them are going to stink because the averages tell us that. I mean, look at all the quarterbacks that Dwayne Haskins. I heard Joe Klatt say, that guy's going to start right away. I'm like, if you take a quarterback from Ohio State, I heard you talking too, Jody, about North Dakota State. Yeah. I would never in a billion years take a quarterback from Ohio State. Name me one in 131 years of the program's existence that has ever gone to the NFL and been a star.
Right, so now I got to do this with Sileo.
Zero.
Quick question for you. When was the last great quarterback that came out of LSU?
Joe Burrow.
2 years ago.
Before Joe Burrow.
Burt Jones.
Burt Jones. So you got to turn back the clock 40 years.
Burt was good.
Did Cincinnati even bat an eye to take Joe Burrow at number one? Because there hadn't been a good quarterback at LSU in 40 years? The answer is no. They took him because he was easily the best quarterback. So those who came before a kid in his program, to me, is completely irrelevant. Okay, Justin Fields is going to be a great player because he's a great player. And you shouldn't think he's not going to be a great player because Dwayne Haskins sucked. That makes no sense to me.
Okay, but the point is that program produces wideouts, running backs, O-linemen. They produce every single one of those positions except that quarterback position. And you know what, too, Jody? Ohio State had the guy. They had the guy in the room, and when Ryan Day and Urban Meyer couldn't evaluate the guy, you know what they told Joe Burrow? Justin Fields and Dwayne Haskins is better than you. You're going to have to transfer. They couldn't even get it right in their own room, and the kid's from Ohio. They said you have to go somewhere else. So what does he do? He does have to go to LSU. Ed Orgeron takes the kid, and the kid wins the Heisman. He wins the national championship, and he's the number one pick. And Jody, they had the guy. And then they went like this. You're not good enough. How do I trust that evaluation when you're sitting there telling me that Justin Fields is going to be a star when they had the better guy in the room?
I would argue, Jim, it's not about the evaluation of Brian Day or even Urban Meyer. It's about the evaluation of the Chicago Bears now, who actually drafted Justin Fields, because they're going to be the ones responsible for developing the kid.
Hey, John, when are the Bears ever develop?
No, nobody. We got to go back to Sid Luckman. But I will say, and they just screwed up. Ryan Pace just screwed up with Mitch Trubisky. We all know that. But I do think people often in the draft, they say, okay, you hand the card in, that's the player you get. You got to develop the kid. You know, you mentioned, Randall Cunningham. Donovan McNabb was pretty good. He might be as well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But,
borderline Canton guy, John.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I always point to Donovan. I point to that draft. And what if Tim Couch got or Achilles Smith got with Andy Reid and Donovan didn't? How does that affect things? So,
hey, man, when you go to a certain place, there is no question, John, where you go, where you get drafted. I was telling the story, guys. When I came out of Miami, I was a 3 technique. I got up the field like Jerome. We made plays. When I got to the Buccaneers, they asked me to play nose guard. I went, I never freaking played the position in my life. I don't know how to play nose guard. What do you mean? Hold the guy so, the linebacker makes plays? You got to know this about me and Jerome back in the day. If it was a TV game, we'd look at our linebacker and go, you better buckle up because we're running around blocks. We're making plays. It's a TV game. The girls are watching us right now. So, no. It is so important where you get drafted. But to what Jody said, here's what scouts – they notoriously do. Would a guy like me being a scout miss on Jerry Rice, being from Mississippi Valley State? Absolutely, I would miss on a guy. But I'm not missing on Andre Johnson. I'm not missing on the wide receivers that are the big ones like Julio Jones or any of those guys coming out of the big-time programs. What you're doing as a scout is you're trying to limit your failure in the draft. And to me, going down to the Premier League of college football, the Southeastern Conference, 65 guys got drafted this past weekend from that conference. I got a feeling I'm not going to be wrong. And the percentages of the guys that I draft are going to make it versus me going to Texas A&I. I know I miss Darrell Green. I miss Jerry Rice.
John Randall, Texas A&I. John Randall. Yeah.
That's right. I thought it was Darrell Green went there too.
Yeah. So you never know is what I'm saying. John Randall, one of the guys I covered early in my career, Sills, the draft was 12 rounds. Yeah. 12 rounds. Nobody drafted him. Oof. He's in Canton. He's in Canton today. So, it can happen, but it's rare.
Half the league is later round and undrafted guys. People don't realize that. Half the league is that because, like Coach Johnson said on the show last week, okay, you've got to have guys to be able to manage your salary cap. You can't have all billionaire guys on your roster. That's just not going to work, especially when you're dealing in a salary cap era now. You can't have all those big money guys. There's got to be balance in your cap. The teams that don't have the balance in their cap, you can always tell. There's always an outlier. You know what it is? Their special teams suck. Look at the Cowboys. The Cowboys spend on 3 dudes $40 million, $20 million, and $20 million. You're talking $100 million of the $185 million salary cap. You haven't even got to your old line yet. Let's just say that's another $30 million. By the time you get off your offense, you're at over $110 million. How are you going to build that sieve of a defense when you have already 70% of your salary cap? That's why the Cowboys will suck this year again, because they didn't fill the holes. Filling holes with draft guys. Okay, watch this. If you ever see Bull Durham, okay, Meat, let's see if you could play first, okay, before we start saying, Micah Parsons, oh, my God, this guy's going to be a trendsetter. Okay, are they going to put him in a 34? Are they going to line him up? Are they going to stand him up? Are they going to put him down? Are they going to move him around? Jalen Smith is overrated. Their special teams will stink because their salary cap is unbalanced. The secret sauce of the Patriots was they never spent any money. I mean, who did they spend money on? Brady took pay cuts. Right. When you went to New England, you didn't make money. You won titles.
And Brady did that for New England, and he should forever get credit for it. He does it on the field, and he did it, yes, by being a team player when it came to salary, and that's why they won as many championships. All right, speaking of championships, Dan, last thing for me. Let me just get this right. Justin Fields has no chance whatsoever in your mind because he comes from Ohio State, and they can't develop quarterbacks, and he's going to the Bears. And they can't develop a quarterback, haven't been able to do it for 70 years. So he is basically doomed in your estimation, correct?
That's half of it. The other half is I saw him against Indiana throw 3 picks. I saw him in the Big
Did you
Ten
see the
championship.
Clemson game in the semifinal game when he took a shot to the chest? Play.
I saw him.
4 more touchdown passes.
I saw him in the Indiana game, blowout loud in Bloomington. I saw him in the Big 12.
Did they win that game in Bloomington, Dan? Somehow I forgot. Did they win that game in Bloomington?
Oh, they sure did.
Oh,
but
okay.
Again, nice wide open windows in Bloomington. Those things become portholes in the NFL. How did he do in the Big Ten title game against Northwestern? They sugar ragged him. He didn't play well in that game.
Quick question again. Hold on. A memory. I must be having a memory loss. Did they win that game? Did they beat Northwestern?
How
I have this vague memory of them actually winning that game and having a running back that ran for 200 yards. So what was the coach supposed to do?
Hey, I want to play.
Hey, John, I'm going to play. He took a hit. Yeah. He took a hit in the title game. Well, guess what, big boy? This is the NFL. You're going to take some big hits. You got to stand in the pocket and show some courage in there. And you know what? Taking hits? Hey, that's like thanking me for not robbing a bank. This is the NFL. You're going to get hit in that league, kid. Yeah. You got to be able to take them hits. Look at the great ones, man. They stand. Why Baker Mayfield has struggled all this time? Because he lacks courage in the pocket. He's always willing to take off when something's not going right. Look at all the quarterbacks that lack the courage. Those are the guys that take off running because they can't stand in there. That's why to this day, you have to win championships from the pocket, not from the perimeter.
Okay.
Now, all right. I'm going to play referee because I'm going to get you guys together because I brought up Dwayne Johnson to begin the segment. National Football Show with Dan Sileo. I want to talk about your wrestling career, Dan. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about Europe. I want to talk about Luke Poirier. I want to talk about Rambo. Were you in New Japan Pro Wrestling for a short period?
Hey, okay. So you guys, so wait a minute. I've been a stockbroker with Bear Stearns. This is me trying to find my deal, right? I said, I can't sit in front of a Quotron, man. This is not me. 3 hours talking to guys going, I trying to sell waste management. I was like, okay.
Well, you can cut a promo.
I said, hey, man. So I get a call from Cowboy Bob Orton. And Bob Orton was running the WCW back in the day. And he goes, hey, come down to Atlanta. I said, okay. He goes, your boy's down here, Vader. And Vader, Leon White, played in the NFL. He played with the Rams. God rest his soul now. And so he goes, hey, you got to try this. You got to try this. So I go to this school. And we have the Ultimate Warrior there. We have Vader there. We have myself there. And they're training us. The guys gave me $1,000 a week to do this. I'm like, all right, let me get back into this thing here. And so I start doing it. Then I get a call from CWA with Otto Watts overseas. And I go over there, and the Road Warriors had just broken up. So I went over with Road Warrior Hawk. And we went over there, and I spent the entire summer wrestling in Graz, Berlin, Bonn. We went all over, like Hamburg. We went everywhere. And Rambo was there. Rambo gave me a great picture. You saw it the other day when I posted it of Rock's dad. And we were just great. I wrestled for the European Championship. I lost it to Rambo. And it was a fun time. Then I got Antonio Inoki to have me come over. I get out there. And guys, when you're in front of 100,000 fans, with a helmet on at Michigan Stadium, you're kind of under your helmet, Yeah. When you get into Tokyo Dome and you're standing there, man, your knees are shaking, dude. I'm like, holy, good night almighty, man. So I'm doing this, and I started my grandfather comes to me, and he goes, did you graduate? I go, yeah. He goes, pretty smart guy, right? Is this what you're going to do with the rest of your life? I went like this. I'm making like $8,000 a week here. And he goes, this is what you're going to do with the rest of your life. And I went like this. I said, so what do you want me to do? Quit? He goes, dude, you look like a dope. And I went like this, and I said this, and I go, God, I should never listen to my grandfather, man, because I always wondered. I was moving up, man. They were moving me up, and then Eric Bischoff called me and stuff, and they wanted me to try to do it. And I know Mongo's struggling. I wrestled with him a little bit in Atlanta too. So, Yeah, I did it for a little bit, man. How about this? It was the hardest thing that I ever did in my entire life, because if people think that ring is soft, it's not. If they think those ropes are easy, they're not. And I'll tell you what, it's like being a stunt dummy, man. It's a lot of pain, especially when you've played a little bit of pro football.
Yeah, everybody I've ever talked to who's played pro football and wrestled said wrestling was tougher on their body.
Oh, my
Every single
God.
one of them.
Hey, John, when you do that, and I have so much – look, you know the gimmick. Okay, they tell you the gimmick. They tell you what to do. You guys have to feel kind of like the middle. That middle is what gets you, man. I mean, getting up every day to do that, I really give those guys – like Cactus Jack is the greatest bump wrestler in the history of wrestling. This guy jumps off top ropes. He jumps off the top of the cage. He jumps on the glass. I have never seen a better wrestler that will take the bumps for you than him. He's the greatest of all time at it.
That lends me to my last question, and we're running late, so I got to get this one in here before we let you go. Who's the biggest, for lack of a better word, a-hole, douche, who just didn't care that you were going to take the bump, that they didn't know how to pull and fade and do the right thing, get you over and make you look good? No, I'm just going to slam you. I don't care what you kind of pain that you endure. Who is the wrestler you had the worst time with after the fact and go, you know what you just did to me? Who just didn't do it right to make sure that you both walked out of the ring okay?
This guy was hard on new dudes. And every single time that you wrestled him and you got into the ring with this guy, God, man, Ric Flair was so hard on the new dudes. Now, if you knew him, really, really worked with you, but he worked over the young dudes, man. He worked them over. Like, because you know why? We were always stiff. And as soon as you got hooked, as soon as you got on Rick, and he felt you being stiff with him because everybody was nervous. One, you're wrestling Ric Flair. Yeah. Okay. So to me, Jody, it was the fact that as soon as maybe I look at it more, Jody, he was trying to teach us a lesson that, that listen, if you're going in and you're going in hard like that on him, he's going to go back hard on you because he's 10 times more experienced. So if I had to say, he just, every time I wrestled him, man.
How was the chop, Dan? How was the chop? How was the chop? I was taking the chop.
Oh, he was great at it, man. You know what? After a while, I got in there with him. He started to be a little bit lighter on me with it, but it was fantastic. He's such a pro, but the young guys, he beat us up.
Dan, we'll do a whole segment of wrestling with you. We're going to have you back on. You're talking to two wrestling idiots, two major fans here. So football will always be number one, but we're always going to bring up wrestling whenever we get you on again. What time does the new show air again?
4 to 6 Eastern time, each and every single day right here on JAKIB Media. And guys, I really appreciate it. John, I follow you. You know that. And Jody, I know, man. Hey, look, you go all the way back to New York, Philly, you guys go back and forth and you ping pong back and forth. I'll tell you something, John. He's boys with a guy that I'm not boys with. His name is Mark Chernoff, but we'll keep it there.
Fair enough. Dan, great stuff. Appreciate you coming on with us today. Best of luck with the show. We will be in touch again soon enough.
You got it. Thank you, guys.
That is Dan Sileo, the host of the National Football Show here on the JAKIB Media channel. He is John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. We're running late. We'll come back. We'll put a bow on the show. Keep it right here on Birds 365.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.